Hello, it's September the 26th, 2024, and it's time for the weekly word, and the weekly word is engaged. Our key scripture is Hebrews 10:39. Now, this scripture doesn't have the exact English word, but it conveys the concept of what I'm trying to share. And this is what it is. It says, "But we are not of those who shrink back and are destroyed, but of those who have faith and preserve their souls." So the definition of engaged is to come into contact and interact with, like shifting into gear, to be pledged, to be promised, to be betrothed to, as in marriage, to be enlisted, to be zealous, to involve in a conversation, to attract and hold, to enter into conflict with, as in engaging in battle or war. So we can be engaged to be married, we can be engaged in business, engaged in a conversation, or engaged in battle. The word has many applications. So this last Sunday morning, I was in a men's Sunday school class in a church in Pennsylvania, and I was sharing, and this man interrupted me. He engaged me in a very good kind of a way, in a polite way. And he said, "You just used the word engaged." And then he just took a minute and explained the importance of the word and what God had been speaking to him about that word. Well, that was Sunday morning. Then Monday morning, we drove back to Michigan, and Monday night, I attended a men's Monday night Bible study, and the exact same thing happened. I had this opportunity to just briefly share something, and without even realizing it, I had used the word engaged. And Josh, the leader of the study, said, "You use the word engaged." And I think that's a key. And it just sort of like a light bulb went on. Yeah, I think the weekly word is engaged. But the focus of both these interactions, they landed on this. How are we engaging the people around us? So engaging involves basic people skills. When I was not yet even a teenager, my dad began teaching me how to engage people, how to give somebody a firm handshake, how to look them in the eye, stand straight. It's important when you're engaging people to pay attention to their name. I've learned, and I try as I get gotten older, to ask somebody something meaningful about themselves versus just talking about myself. And when I say meaningful, because I realize that quite often I say, "How's it going?" or "How you doing?" But I'm just saying it as a greeting. I'm not really expecting them to engage in a conversation. So engaging involves not just asking a meaningful question, though, but then really listening to their answer as well. We can benefit from engaging and then listening. Proverbs 25 and verse 12. In the New Living Translation, I've been reading through the Psalms and Proverbs in the New Living Translation, and the words are just jumping off the page for me. And it's like, wow, this is describing our world right now. These are answers for today. So, anyways, Proverbs 25 and verse 12 in the New Living Translation says, "To the one who listens, valid criticism is like a gold earring or other gold jewelry." So engaging is about more than just talking, it's about listening. And when we listen to something that's valid, there's profit, there's benefit to it. Sometimes we don't engage people because they might actually speak into our lives. They might say something that makes us uncomfortable. A true friend tells you when you have food on your face, when something's hanging out of your nose, or when your zipper's down. And that's not just criticism, that's looking out for you. Your parents speak up and engage you when you say things that they know will end up in disaster. They say it because they love you, because they want what's best for you, because maybe they've tried it already, and even though it seemed like a good idea at the time, it didn't turn out like they expected. And that's love. That's not a personal attack. But if you're like me, sometimes you don't engage because you don't want to stir things up. You want to keep the peace. But we need to honestly ask ourselves, is that just about me keeping my life more comfortable, or is it really about what's doing best for the other person? Now, again, we don't want to go around and just constantly be an agitator. Scripture doesn't condone that, but We need to speak up when we need to. We need to engage the culture around us. Jesus talked about being the light. Proverbs 24, verse 11 and 12, again in the New Living Translation, rescue those who are unjustly sentenced to die. Save them as they stagger to their death. Don't excuse yourself by saying, look, we didn't know. For God understands all hearts and he sees you. He who guards your soul knows you knew. He will repay all people as their actions deserve. Wow. So we have a responsibility to engage the people around us, especially when we see somebody headed for disaster. So some huge keys to engaging is what is our motivation and how is our engagement actually coming across. We need to be motivated by love, and then even in how we present it, we need to engage with the fruits of the Spirit. They're found in Galatians 5:22. They're love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and with self-control. So, number one, we got to have our motivation right. But number two, when we actually engage people, it needs to come across in the right way. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to receive it. It's not going to be a benefit to them. So, I want to encourage you that people skills and engaging, it starts with the people in your presence, people who are physically in the room. We're living in a world where people are really quick to engage and say things online or on YouTube that they would not be so quick to say and so bold to say if they were looking somebody in the eyes. So engaging personally is a growing issue. If because of time or space or distance you can't engage personally, then the opportunity to connect online like we're doing here is wonderful. It's great. I appreciate it. I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for all of you who listen to the weekly word. But we have to guard that what we're doing online is not robbing us from opportunities with the people in our presence either. People are the treasure. And the people who are physically in your presence are part of God's plan for your life. They're part of your purpose and destiny for today. That's why God put them there. So, in order to have something worth saying, something that's going to bring encouragement, something that's going to bring help, something that's going to bring hope, we have to start our day by engaging with God. 1 John 2:28, and now, dear children, remain in fellowship with Christ, so that when he returns, you will be full of courage and not shrink back from him in shame. Remain in fellowship with Christ so that you'll be full of courage. In John 12:49, Jesus said, I have not spoken on my own authority, but the Father who sent me has himself given me a commandment what to say and what to speak. I want to encourage you as you spend time with God each day, as you spend time in his word, you're going to know what to say and what to speak. So lastly, in all our engaging, we must realize that we are engaged in a spiritual battle. We're not wrestling against flesh and blood. There is evil in this world. There are spiritual forces at work on every level. And if we forget or ignore this, we're leaving ourselves wide open for an attack. So, we can engage in prayer. That's partly about how we engage against that. We engage by not responding with anger and hatred when the demons tormenting somebody else provokes them to speak against us or act out against us. So realize that as you go through your day, there's also evil forces trying to engage against you, and don't take the bait. Keep your peace. So I'd like to close up by backing up and reading the verses leading up to our key scripture, which is Hebrews 10. We're going to read verses 36 to 39. For you have need of endurance, so that when you have done the will of God, you may receive what is promised. For yet a little while, and the coming one will come and will not delay. But my righteous one will live by faith. And if he shrinks back, my soul has no pleasure in him. But, here's the key verse, We are not of those who shrink back and are destroyed, but of those who have faith and preserve their souls. So, hey, don't shrink back, but engage. God bless you. Have a wonderful week.